Coming in at number 5, networking and Ethernet. Another innovation developed at Xerox PARC, which Steve Jobs admitted that he totally overlooked during his '79 visit, was a work group of personal computers networked together, providing the ability to share files and resources like networked printers. It's something we take for granted today, especially considering the giant worldwide network that is the Internet. But it was all made possible thanks to Ethernet. Bob Metcalfe invented Ethernet in '73 at Xerox PARC. The company patented it in '75, and it was later made an open standard. For wired network connections, Ethernet is the absolute standard, but it's not because there haven't been other options over the years. Competing connectivity options like Token Ring, FTDI, and Apple's Local Talk all competed with Ethernet at one point or another over the last 5 decades. Yet Ethernet has remained the standard. But what about Wi-Fi? It was actually created as a wireless variant of Ethernet, and its official name as a recognized standard is, in fact, Wireless Ethernet 802.11. So while Ethernet has gotten faster and gone wireless over time, it's essentially the same concept today as what Metcalfe came up with in the 1970s. Coming in at number 4, zip files. If you've spent any time downloading files from the internet or sharing them with others, you've run across zip files. But what are they? In technical terms, zip is a compression format, which means it takes an existing file and makes it smaller. Once the zip file reaches its destination, it can be decompressed to return the file to its original state. This not only saves space but also helps files to transfer across networks quicker, avoiding corruption in the process. There are many other compression formats, but zip has outlasted them all, which is pretty incredible considering that the format is in its 4th decade of use. Created by programmer Phil Katz at his company PQware in '89, the zip file format predates the modern internet. Given the very high price per megabyte of hard drives in the '80s, zip was one of many compression tools to come out at the time. But its ease of use and its later ubiquity across nearly all computing platforms have made zip the standard for file compression since then. Another aspect of zip's long lifespan is its usefulness in general file handling. Microsoft's standard Office file formats, for example, DocX for Word and XLSX for Excel, are actually zip files underneath the hood. This allows Microsoft to essentially combine several different files into what appears as one file, allowing for compatibility with other Office applications. Coming in at number 3, computer mouse. It's hard to imagine computing without some sort of keyboard, whether for typing text or issuing instructions to the computer. And at this point, it should also be assumed that the computer mouse is here to stay too. The first prototype mouse was created in 1964 by Douglas Engelbart, who was then a director of the Augmentation Research Center at Stanford Research Institute in Menlo Park, California. But the mouse's entry into mainstream culture can really be traced to 1979 when a group of Apple engineers and executives led by Steve Jobs visited the Xerox Palo Alto Research Center, PRC. It was on this trip that Jobs first saw computers with icons, Windows, a mouse, and other technologies that had been developed at PRC. Convinced that this was the future of personal computing, Jobs took this information back to Apple. By 1983, Apple had shipped its first computer with a mouse, the Lisa, followed by the first Macintosh in 1984. Since then, the mouse has become an essential part of personal computing. Not bad for a piece of hardware designed in the 1960s and, save for some technical improvements and ergonomic changes, is more or less the same here in the 21st century. Coming in at number 2, email. Even though a lot of us dread looking at our email inboxes these days since it is likely full of spam, promotional offers, and more work to do, it is still an essential part of daily computing. If you have no love for email these days, try and imagine how exciting it must have been in its early days, when sending a message across computers seemed like something from the future. Not surprisingly, ARPANET was the network that facilitated the first email delivery. On October 29, 1969, a fellow Professor Leonard Kleinrock and his student and programmer Charlie Klein sat down to send a message over ARPANET to another programmer, Bill Duval, at Stanford Research Institute. The message was to be one word, login, and the system crashed right after the O was typed. Thankfully, the message was able to be sent successfully about an hour later, and that was the birth of email. Was that a good thing? That's for each person to decide, but considering the longevity of email and the many billions of messages that have been sent since 1969, it's definitely worth noting that one of the oldest computer technologies is still with us as a part of everyday life. Coming in at number 1, it's a Unix system. I know this, says Lex as she saves the day in the '93 film adaptation of Jurassic Park. This line became one of the earliest internet memes, and it has endured. There's even a whole subreddit devoted to it. The line resonated so strongly because many computer professionals can relate. If you know the Unix operating system, you can sit down at any Unix-like system made in the last 50+ years and instantly feel at home. Unix originated at AT&T Bell Labs in '69. Designed from the ground up to be a multitasking and multi-user system, Unix has long been hailed for its innovative design and rock-solid stability. But perhaps the biggest reason users are so loyal is the Unix philosophy, a guiding set of design principles that encourages the use of small, useful applications that can easily pipe data to other applications. While AT&T sold Unix licenses for many years, the core concepts led to the development of many Unix-like systems over the years. Today, developers can submit their operating systems for certification as a Unix-certified product to the current owner of the Unix trademark, the Open Group. In the world of free and open-source software, the most popular operating systems are Linux distributions, with Linux being categorized as a Unix-like system. Linux powers many of the servers on the internet today and has made major inroads as a desktop OS too. Considering its age, it's pretty incredible to consider how long Unix and Unix-like systems have been around and how relevant they still are today.